Hi, Anna. Welcome to the show. I'm very excited to have you on today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Laura. It's such a pleasure to be here today.
So, you and I are both very passionate about preconception. I remember years ago, I was like creating a preconception program, and I'm like Googling and looking for what's out there. And there was one program in Australia. This is like 10 years ago. So, like, preconception is fairly new concept.
It is.
And you are talking about the preconception era, which I'm really excited for you to explain. Like, what is that, and why is it important for women listening that are thinking about becoming a mother?
Absolutely. It's an era that I feel is so foundational in our lives, and our fertility, as you know, is a mirror for our overall health. And I have been in my preconception era for the last couple of years, and it was really inspired by my own journey, witnessing my mom experience multiple miscarriages. I was 2 or 3 when I first witnessed her miscarriage, and then she had another subsequent miscarriage, and then my little brother was born and he died. So there was a lot of grief and loss and trauma around pregnancy, and I know that for me, becoming a mother has been one of my greatest dreams, yet there was also so much fear around it. And then I started experiencing different symptoms and conditions even early on that I had normalized. I didn't know anything different. And then it wasn't until after college, when I had been accepted to medical school, that I lost my period. I stopped ovulating. I had no libido, was this whole culmination, the perfect storm of symptoms that became so pronounced. And it was like my body was finally getting me to pause, to listen and reconnect. And I, at that time, was just consuming so much information and researching hypothalamic amenorrhea, which is the absence of menstruation. I was looking at women's health and looking for answers that I couldn't seem to find. And then I stumbled across Dr. Afrusta Mary, who's a women's health specialist, and she coined the term trimester zero. And it's that time she, goes within that 3-month period before conception where you're optimizing your health. You're focusing in on hormones and sleep and diet and all of that. And for me, I felt so resonant with that because these symptomatic pregnancies or these challenging, painful pregnancies are not normal. But because so many women experience them, they you know, consider normal because they're so common, but they're not. And I thought, well, this is so interesting. Why are we not talking more about this? And even when I was experiencing my own reproductive health issues and fertility issues, I didn't speak about them because I felt so much shame. I felt like my
Mm.
body was broken. I felt defective and I felt alone. And I feel like so many other women have experienced that, and we're not alone. And there's so many more of us who are experiencing them. So as I deepen with my own healing and journey, I realize this is so common. And the, the more we focus on optimizing our health prior to conception, the healthier our pregnancies, the healthier our postpartum, more easeful our births, the healthier our babies. And then all these symptoms like menopause and perimenopause, postmenopause, all of these things that we deal with as women that are classified as just being part of being a woman, which are not normal, get addressed by focusing in on this era.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, you really hit it like the head on the nail. Symptoms are not normal, even if they're very common. A lot of times symptoms can be normalized, and it's really doing us a disservice as women, especially when it's like, no, periods are supposed to be painful and heavy and crampy. And, it's normal to have all these perimenopausal symptoms for several years before you stop getting your period. And even though lots and lots of women are experiencing these symptoms and they're real and they're not to be dismissed, um, I almost feel like normalizing them is to help women be like, okay, there's a camaraderie on how we can all have these suffer together, right? And
Right.
there is more speaking up about these symptoms now, I think, than in the past. However, we don't still want to normalize them. We want to recognize that, yes, lots of other women may experience it. And what can we do to shift that and change that and recognize that symptoms are our body's way of telling us something is wrong. So we really want to listen and pay attention, and we don't want to mask the symptoms. We want to address them and support the natural healing process of our body, that innate intelligence that exists in all of us.
Absolutely. And the body is so incredibly intelligent and resilient. And when it's given the support and nourishment it needs, it will heal. And I know what it's like to feel like radiant health is impossible because there's so much conflicting information and misleading information. And it can feel so challenging to discern what is true and what's actually going to bring us toward health. But the truth is the body is always striving for balance and health. And the symptoms are codes from the body revealing what is going on a deeper level when we stop and listen.
Well said. So, you have mentioned the preconception error is really for women that are feeling that's yearning to become a mother one day, and they might be single. They may not even have a partner in their life at this moment, but they know that's something that they want off in the future. And it's a lot more than just freezing your eggs, by the way. I know that's what a lot of women are thinking. I'll just freeze my eggs and then I can get pregnant later on once I meet, my husband. But we can recognize that if we really take care of our bodies now, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, our eggs are going to serve us well into our late 30s and early 40s without having to be frozen, right?
Exactly. And we don't even get into the details of that whole egg freezing process and all the synthetic hormones that are introduced to our physiology.
It's very intense, and it is something that I can recognize can be helpful for some women, but in general, once again, making decisions from an empowered place versus out of fear, I think is really important, and recognizing that if we are really nurturing and caring for ourselves, it doesn't matter that we're over 35 when we're looking to conceive naturally because we can do it if we've addressed the stress in our life. That is a very big block towards a healthy conception, right? And it's because it throws off our hormones. There's a lot of biochemical imbalance. And if we look at, our nervous system, when we're under chronic stress, we're in that fight or flight. And our cave lady sisters were not going to get pregnant when they were running from a tiger. And it was not a safe time for them to reproduce, right? So our bodies can still feel that way in modern life from work, career, our lifestyles that are making us really stressed and go, 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 and we'll say this is not the right time to have a baby even if consciously we're like, yes, we're ready, let's do it. The body's going to put a stop and a pause to that. So it's really important to listen to that. So when you're working with women that are wanting to become a mother, but are working, 60 hours a week and are going out several nights a week with friends to have cocktails and are eating a lot of packaged ultra processed foods and don't have time to squeeze in their exercise. Like this woman is really, burning at both ends, right? And what would you say to that lady? Like, hey, what would kind of work would you do with her to help get her body back into balance?
Absolutely. Well, obviously, we begin at the beginning, right? With the foundation, just like when you're building a home, you don't skip the foundation. Well, our health, our physical health, and food and lifestyle are the foundation for our bodies and our health and our future. So, with that kind of woman, I would bring her into the state of open mindedness to see that there's this term I've heard, or not a term, but this almost an excuse that says, well, I'm too busy. I don't have time to work out. I don't have time to eat healthy. And I want to reframe it and say, well, you're already doing all of this without eating healthy and you're doing so much already. Imagine what would be possible if you felt you were balanced with your hormones, you had the vibrant vitality and energy, and you felt limitless because I don't have time not to eat healthy. I don't have time not to move my body. I know that my health is the foundation for my future, for my life, for my success, for my relationships. And when we start to see it that way, it's like the things we're doing, caffeinating ourselves, eating the ultra processed fast foods, processed quick snacks, whatever it is we're doing that is actually health hindering and coding our body for survival, it's like, no, we actually understand the foundation of what's going on. And I love what you were saying earlier about the whole fight flight. And I always say that we are all our own best wellness architect and lifestyle designer. And so each action we're taking, each choice and decision we're making is either coding our body for survival, for fear, for stress, for illness, or for radiance, for creation, for health.
Mhm.
And this is a choice point we have in each moment. And so for this woman, it's like, okay, understanding that you have been living a very full and engaging life and running at this high level of output without nourishing the body is not sustainable. And so what can we do now? What is the simple action? It's like you're already drinking water. How can we enhance your hydration? How can we refine and make these subtle tweaks? It's like we think we need to change and do a whole 365-degree overhaul or something of such where we have to do everything all at once. But what if it's the small incremental shifts that create the exponential results? So you're
Mm.
already doing the water, but do more living water, do the hydration at very strategic times during the day to enhance cleansing, to enhance hormonal balance, to enhance energy levels. Just different distinctions there that really support the body and make a difference that is felt tomorrow.
So I've never heard of living water. What is that?
Okay, so much of the water that we're drinking is dead water. It's not vibrant, it's not structured the way that it needs to be. In nature, it has a hexagonal structure. So with the hydrogen and the oxygen molecules, there's a 120-degree bond angle between them. Now, when you have water in nature, it's in its hexagonal form. So all these molecules are interacting with one another. And that's when it's most bioavailable and absorbable. And there's a way to make our water more living by adding lemon juice, lime juice. Living water exists in foods like cucumbers. All of the fruits and veggies have a living water that's different than the tap water or the filtered water that we're drinking. And while the filtered water is the best, it may not be the correct structure. We're going to optimize hydration by adding the lemon water, the lime juice, whatever, the lemon juice rather, the lime juice to make it more living, to make it more alkalizing, to make it more hydrating. Because what happens is that with the lemon juice, with the lime juice, there's bioavailable glucose that drives the water into the cells.
And what about spring water?
So spring water is very good. Yeah, that would be in its more hexagonal structure and shape, right? Because it's coming from the source, the spring,
Mhm.
and also adding that lemon, lime, citrus juice to it will make it even more hydrating.
Got it. So I love that, like when spas serve that cucumber or citrus water, it tastes delicious. I know people that are like, "Oh, I don't like the taste of water." Like that's an easier way to drink more water if you're not getting enough ounces a day. But even for us, the rest of us who are drinking enough water, I agree, our bodies will not absorb the water, especially if we are stressed. I mean, part of it could be the living dead, but then also if we're stressed, we're not going to utilize that water as effectively, and our bodies can still be dehydrated. So, like I work with a homeopathic remedy called rehydration,
Mhm.
and adding it, it helps with the hypothalamus. And by adding it to my water, my body does absorb that water more effectively. So there are, I mean, I know some people will add minerals like sea salt, right? Like a Celtic sea salt.
Right.
That's another way to also, I think, with the to get the trace minerals, but also possibly to absorb the water more effectively as well.
Absolutely. And I would say too that the citrus, the lemons, the limes, they have bioavailable sodium. So that's going to help with the sodium potassium channels in the body, with the fluid balance, osmotic balance, etc.
Hmm. Cool. So all the water you drink has some sort of citrus juice in it.
Sometimes I do pure filtered water. But usually I do the lemon water first thing in the morning after a night of sleep when your body's been going through its two-phase liver detoxification process. You're waking up and your body's dehydrated, and we want to cleanse and eliminate those toxins, those chemicals that were being eliminated during the night and cleansed from the body. We don't want them to just sit in the colon, going through that state of compaction and then being reabsorbed if we're not eliminating properly or regularly.
100%. So we were going back to that woman who is needing to work on her physical body and her lifestyle. And I liked how you mentioned that everything that we're choosing, positive or negative, so to speak, is a choice, right? We can choose. I think sometimes people feel like they don't have a choice, right? They're like, oh, this is like my job, and this is kind of, I'm on that hamster wheel. And they're really not recognizing how they can make a different choice. And making a different choice can be really hard too.
Of course, because we've gotten used to living in that same predictable reality. And the choices we've been making then lead to the subsequent choices. They also influence our thoughts, our feelings, and emotions. And so we think a certain thought, we then feel a certain way, and then we take aligned action. And then we code the body for that same state of being and feeling and doing. And when we start to interrupt our patterns, it's uncomfortable. It feels challenging because the neurons that wire together, and we've established these unconscious habits or these habits that don't actually promote our health, rather hinder our health, but we're not aware of it. And then there are all these health trends too that can distract us and keep us away from actually experiencing radiant health and healing. And so it's understanding that when you make a different choice, you'll experience a period of discomfort. Maybe there's resistance. It's like we resist going to the gym. We resist eating this food that we know is healthier. But the more we resist something, the more important it is for our spiritual and personal evolution, as Stephen Pressfield has written in his book, War of Art. And so, what are these things that we know we need to do, but we're not doing because maybe there's resistance or whatever it is that's there? But as soon as we do it, it's like, oh, I don't want to move my body. I don't feel like it today. But as soon as we start doing it, we change our physiology, we change our mental and emotional states, and then we feel better. And so
Mhm.
it's that initial peak of resistance that then leads to the breakthrough. So can we just lean into the resistance, experience it, choose differently instead of recreating the past and then making that our future, and our current reality then persists if we're not happy with it.
Right. And also, like what you're speaking to is really just almost going through the day to day life with unconscious, right? Like we're just doing what we've been doing forever. And, some of it's based off of our early childhood experiences and our limiting beliefs. And so we have to become conscious of that first to even be able to make a different choice. So I know you do some modalities like, for example, EFT. I know that could be a great way to help identify limiting beliefs. And like, what other types of things would you do with somebody where they're feeling stuck around making lifestyle improvements?
I think there's this other element that's identity, because we've only known ourselves who we're current, we know ourselves based on our current capacity and where we are, and we forget that where we are is not where we're going. And we start making meaning out of where we are with our health, with our life, with our career, whatever it is, the number on the scale. We think, well, if this is where I am, this is where I'll be, instead of seeing the potential that results in making from different choices, right? It's like we make a decision, but it feels so far away from who we are. Like we're here, but it's not where we want to be. But that version of us feels so far away that we don't see how making a different choice then compounds over time to calibrate us to that new identity, to that next level and that next version. And so a lot of it is identity, but it's also lifestyle design. So our habitat constantly influences our habits, consciously and unconsciously. And so using these tools like Vastu Shastra, which is the Vedic feng shui, and understanding the energetics of our space and how we place things a certain direction or in a certain corner, or the layout of our kitchen, how when we have something on our counter, it can then be a cue that triggers a response. And so if we have a lot of processed foods in the pantry, that then is the cue that triggers us to eat those things, that then perpetuates a cycle of eating these foods that hinder our health, hinder our health, compromise
Mhm.
how we're feeling. And then it's that spiral. So it's sometimes small, subtle shifts within our own environment where it's like, oh, this is going to cue something different. Maybe it's redesigning your pantry. Maybe it's redesigning your morning and daily design with how you begin your morning. Are you hydrating in the first thing in the morning, or are you scrolling? Are you taking a moment to move your body, or are you just going full into work mode? It's these small choices that atomic habits, as James Clear has written about, that over time compound. And it's these small choices we make every day that don't feel like much, but over time create that exponential ripple. And
Yes.
it's continuing to show up without sabotaging, without berating ourselves and saying, oh, well, I slipped there. And now if I'm not created it by now, I won't do it. So then we give up. I see a lot of people give up too soon. And it's in that messy middle where change is happening and changes are transpiring that we feel the chaos, and it feels so overwhelming sometimes that we just want to give up and say, forget it. I want to go back to my comfort zone, which keeps us in the predictable reality. But when we start to lean into that discomfort of change and newness and unfamiliarity, anything is possible because now we're not in the predictable field. We're in the quantum field where all potentials and possibilities exist.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
I was like, where do I go from there? So
Anyway,
anywhere, we can go anywhere we want. So I'm just thinking back to some patients I've taken care of over the years where their version of preconception is, okay, I'm going to start trying to have a baby. I'm ovulating. I know when I'm ovulating, I'm going to have sex with my husband. And then once I get like the positive pregnancy test, I'll stop drinking. I'll stop, my lifestyle, right? And this person's already pregnant at that point and or is having difficulty getting pregnant or maintaining a pregnancy, like you mentioned with your mother's experience. Like these are real things. So like even getting pregnant quickly does not necessarily mean number one, you have a healthy baby. Number two, you're going to have a full-term pregnancy. Um, like all of these factors are real. And so even I think sometimes people will think like, I just have to get pregnant, right? I just gotta, and it's like so much more than just getting pregnant. Like you mentioned in the beginning, we want to have a healthy pregnancy, a healthy baby, an empowered birth experience, which comes from being healthy physically, mentally, emotionally, right? Really owning your power during the labor and delivery process, and it will create an empowered motherhood. So your choices and decisions after the birth for yourself and your child will be from a place of education versus fear, right? You'll make very different decisions from that place. So, I think it's really important to recognize that this type of work is not even 3 months is not even enough. Like that try zero, you got to do more. When I work with women and couples, ideally, right? Because you need the partner if they're actively, looking to start a family, I want 6 months with both partners to create healthy lifestyle, healthy egg and sperm before the conception occurs. And I think a lot of preconception and fertility is still very focused on the woman because she's the one carrying the pregnancy without recognizing that 50% of the genetics are coming from dad.
I agree 100% with everything you've shared. And his preconception era and health matter just as much. His
Yes.
sperm viability is so impacted by his choices in his lifestyle, the toxic heavy metals that are passed down through the generations that are in the air and we're exposed to on a daily basis. And so we need to be considering this from a more long term perspective because I think so many of us become so outcome oriented and we focus solely on the outcome, which is getting pregnant. That little few of us consider how we want to feel while pregnant. And we need to become more process oriented, the journey of becoming a mother, because your health is not the goal, it's the gateway. Pregnancy isn't just this goal of having a baby, it's this whole initiation from maiden to mother. And it's like, who are you going to become? And having this conscious conception era, a preconception era, is so important because it's this ending of one chapter and the beginning of a new chapter. And it's anchoring into yourself. And these symptoms are really invitations back to the body, which is the source of our power. And when we're dealing with these symptoms, we have this disconnect from our body. And when you become more connected to your body, you become more intuitive, more sovereign, more powerful, more purposeful. And that is the essence of why we're here, because then you become a more conscious mother, a more conscious parent, which then has the whole ripple effect that we're not talking about. We just focus so much on, well, are you pregnant or not? And it's like, well, I haven't gotten pregnant by this time. So what is happening now? Because the fertility window is only a reflection of your overall health. We can expand that fertility window. And if you haven't gotten pregnant yet, or if you've had a miscarriage, you can still get pregnant and conceive naturally and have a healthy pregnancy and a healthy birth. But it's really understanding the foundation of your health because you are the foundation for the family, for the future. And there's so much hinging. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
There's so much hinging on this period of time that I think we've gotten used to this technological age where everything happens almost instantaneously that we get frustrated with our health. And it's like, well, everything that we are experiencing now with symptoms has been building over time and it's been subtle and soft, but now it's gotten louder. And this is so important to consider because when you're pregnant, your immune system is lowered by a sustained 50%. And when you're ovulating, it's lowered by 40%. And when you're menstruating, it's lowered by 80%. So these symptoms that have been normalized, PMS, bloating, constipation, fatigue, inflammation, all of that, they're not normal, but they occur when our immune system is lowered and diverted to the reproductive system. And when you hone in on these areas, you begin to feel better and you become who you're here to be. So it's like this whole becoming journey rather than just this outcome oriented journey. And then it's like, oh, I'm pregnant, but now I feel so symptomatic. I don't feel like myself. I feel so tired. I feel awful. And this is miserable. You don't want to have this miserable experience. You're bringing life into this world. And then the pregnancy and the health of your body is actually determining the health of the baby. So the stronger you are prior to conception, the stronger the baby.
Yes, you and the partner. Yeah,
Yeah.
the preconception era definitely includes both partners. And, sometimes that is a challenge for couples where they're wanting to have a baby and the woman is really invested in improving her health. And it can be harder to get the partner on board because he's not really acknowledging his contribution to this to the situation here. So I do still find that challenge with the couples I work with, or at least the women that I work with, that their husbands are still vaping and having,
Mm.
drinking lots of alcohol, and they're kind of like, well, I'm working hard and I'm the financial breadwinner, and that's my contribution to this family, and having sex, right? And it is more than that, obviously.
Of course.
So I also want to talk a little bit. We talked a lot about the physicality of the preconception error and how important that is for both partners. But let's talk a little bit about the emotional component that you shared, even with your own personal experience. If you have a family member that had infertility, or girlfriends that had challenges with either repeated miscarriages or stillbirth, or a sickly baby, whatever that looks like, that can create some fear, right? And it could be like, well, especially if it's within your family, it's like sometimes there's this perception that I'm going to inherit that same type of challenge, right?
Right.
Without recognizing the power of epigenetics. So what would you say to a woman who's like, I'm taking care of myself physically, but I am really afraid that it's going to be hard for me to get pregnant when I'm ready to try, even though I know I really want to be a mother?
I would definitely explore those fears and so much of what we're feeling. Dr. Dane here, he's a chiropractor, access consciousness, but he has written the book Body Whispering. And he is brilliant. And he says 99.99% of what we think, feel, experience, fear is not even ours because we're energetic beings and our fields are constantly interacting. And so asking the question, is this mine? Can help dissipate that fear. Does this belong to me? Can help dissipate because these things that we think in our head, these thoughts of the 60 to 80,000 thoughts we think a day, 95% are repetitive. And of those thoughts that we think a day, 85 or so percent are negative. And because the reptilian brain is like keeping us safe, we're constantly on that fight flight. Where's the perceived danger? And that keeps us in survival mode. So we can't even see the possibilities of, I could be radiantly healthy. I could experience something differently. That was her experience. We think, oh, well, my mom experienced that. So then I'll experience it. And it's like so little of what we're experiencing and witnessing with health in our lives is related to genetics. It's epigenetics, as you just spoke about. And It's honoring that that fear existed and that you're the cycle breaker, likely. You're going through your conception era and your conception journey with more consciousness, more awareness. And so all of these fears, all of these stories, these limitations, these doubts are going to come up. And are you going to feed them? Are you going to buy into them? Because only that which we give power has power over us. And when we start to see that these are not even ours, we can then recode our body because we're not just recoding the body physically, we recode emotionally, mentally, energetically. And these thoughts, these emotions, they can be addressed and healed. So, emotional freedom technique, breath, visualization, understanding the origin story, and then remembering that we are the ones to rewrite the story and redesign our destiny because our diagnosis of infertility or whatever the reproductive health condition or autoimmune condition, we need to remember that our diagnosis is not our destiny, that it is our decision point to change, to choose to remember our power and rise.
Right, and it's also a lot of times a big initiator for people to make lifestyle changes because they recognizing what they've been doing is what led them to that diagnosis, and you obviously have to do things differently to get out of the diagnosis, but recognizing that you don't have to own that diagnosis or live with it for the rest of your life as well, right? I believe that with any diagnosis, you can heal it if you believe that you can, right? So it really
Yes.
comes back to that belief in your mind and then all of the actions that you'll choose to make to support that health and wellness
Hmm.
is coming from that belief that you can heal, you can create whatever you want to create physically as well, and your health, your baby, whatever that might be for yourself. So another modality I really like around that is Psych K. Um, which I don't know if you've heard of, but that's also about removing limiting beliefs. And Dr. Bruce Lipton has said this is who's the father of epigenetics, has said this is one of the most powerful ways to identify and remove limiting beliefs. And it's really just recognizing what our conscious mind and our subconscious mind are both thinking. And if they're incongruent, like I have a healthy, happy, pregnancy versus, the subconscious belief is I will never get pregnant, right? And recognizing how do we create that challenge that's like a rift here that's creating a block in that pregnancy fertility journey. So and it could be for anything in our life, right? We're focusing on pregnancy, but it could be like you mentioned, an autoimmune diagnosis or um, cancer, even, or other health conditions that people think of. And it can even create a lot of fear when they're diagnosed with it, and then recognizing that they have the power to heal.
Yes. Yes. And the system has thrived on people becoming disconnected from their bodies and disconnected from our power, right? It hasn't been this empowerment model, it's been more of a dependency model. And we've outsourced our power. We know we don't feel good. We're feeling and sensing and intuiting that something is off. And we go and the test results, the scans, whatever it is, the hormone panels, they reveal that everything looks normal. And so, oh, it's just in your head or you're fine or, whatever it is, it's just part of being a woman. It's not. We know so much more deeply than we often acknowledge.
Yeah, it's so true. So, Anna, we have to wrap up this amazing podcast. I've really enjoyed speaking to you. I think we have a lot in common.
I've loved this conversation. Thank
Yes, me
you.
too. So, what would be like your last thoughts that you'd like to share with the women listening?
And knowing and instilling hope and faith in these women, knowing that they can heal. It's like I didn't have evidence that I could heal, so I became the evidence that I could heal naturally. And knowing that the more we become evidence for ourselves, we become evidence for other women because when one woman heals, she rises. And in doing so, she inspires another woman to heal and rise. And what happens when a woman comes in to educate a community, she changes that community. Well, what happens when a woman heals and she becomes radiantly healthy? She changes the world. And so this is our time as women to reclaim our health, remember our power, and rise because there is so much more to the lives we've been living. And there's so much deep intelligence and wisdom in our bodies. And our bodies are coded for radiance, they're coded for healing. This is simply a choice point that we have to activate the radiance codes to become the women we're meant to be, because the way we've been living isn't working anymore. And it's our time to lead a new way.
Beautiful. Well said. So, how can women find you if they want to get more information and work with you?
Absolutely. I would love to connect. I'm on Instagram at I am, like the mantra, I am Anna Finck. That's ANNAFINCK. You can find me on my website, annafink.com, and we can begin a conversation about your radiance era. This is truly a time for you to become the most empowered and embodied version.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Well, I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Well Adjusted Mama with my special guest, Anna Finck. If you want to learn more about Anna and the empowering work she offers through the Embodied Wellness program, check out her website at annafinck.com. That's ANNAFINCK.com. Additionally, if you're looking for support with your preconception health and you're looking to do a deep dive using functional medicine, then I'm here to help. I'm now offering virtual functional medicine consultations specializing in preconception, fertility, and women's health. You can go to my website at drlaurabrayton.com and click Become a Patient to schedule a complimentary 15-minute discovery call with me to see if my program is a good fit for you. And I have opened this up to working with women with other issues beyond fertility and preconception. So that includes adrenal health and gut health and just really vibrance and a vibrant health lifestyle. So if you're looking for support, even outside of preconception, I can be available for you. And if you love Well Adjusted Mama, please leave us a review. Go to ratethispodcast.com/well adjusted mama and follow the simple instructions.